It's regulated by both states and the federal government. The federal government is standing in the way right now of efficient state regulation across the country. And basically, it boils down to about 4 areas. One, of course, is the banks. When it's illegal on the federal level, any bank that operates across state lines will be subject to the federal laws, and therefore they cannot take money from people involved in the marijuana business, the cannabis business. So that's referred to as the Safe Banking Act, and that is actually going through Congress as we talk. So that would be that. So the federal government needs to legalize it from that point of view. Also, in terms of importation and exportation, again, that's controlled by the federal government. Advertising, you've got to be able to advertise your products. Advertising occurs across state lines. That has to be dealt with on federal law. And then on top of that, the folks that have been convicted in the past of marijuana offenses, and there are a lot of them around the country. I've seen different numbers on this subject, but the one that sticks out is about 6,000 folks are sitting in American jails someplace because they have a marijuana conviction. Now we have to, in this part of the puzzle, we have to sort of split things up. And if someone solely has a conviction for marijuana use or distribution, or they're sitting in jail for marijuana use, then I will simply pardon all these people. We will require that their records be expunged, and their any voting rights that were taken away from them are restored, and that they're made whole again in terms of their criminal record. But on the other side of the coin, we often find in the world of crime that somebody robbed a house, beat up the neighbor, and at the same time was smoking pot when he got arrested. So there you got possession of marijuana, you've got burglary, and you've got assault, and there may even be a robbery in there. So here we have a more complicated situation. And this actually occurs often because drugs are a part of most crimes. So what would happen on that front is anyone who has that marijuana conviction, that part of the conviction would be expunged. But the assault and the burglary and the robbery, all that physical harm stuff would have to stay in place because the society has a legitimate interest to deter that kind of violence. So that's the other area. So all of that stuff that I've just described has to happen at the federal level. But what we will see as soon as, and the last thing I'll say is at the federal level, there's a schedule of drugs, essentially. And marijuana is in the same class of controlled substances as cocaine, heroin, and fentanyl. It makes no sense. There are people who have smoked pot their entire life, and they have successful lives, successful families. They've saved lots of money. They haven't caused anybody the slightest bit of harm. And there's no reason for marijuana to be in that most dangerous class of substances that the governments have to control across America. So that's a technical point, but everything I've just described is essentially what the federal government has to do to properly legalize marijuana. And then the states, the day after the federal government does it, the states will all be on board. In fact, right now, every state in the union except 2 have legalized some form of cannabis.